Good morning, Facebook. Michael Glassford here. We're here doing our legal live every morning, every Monday morning at 10:30. We're a little late today. I'm gonna blame the snow. I had to make my snowed in necktie today, so that's what I'm calling this one, snowed in. And we're here with Lyle Affleck. I invited him to join us today to share a little bit of wisdom and some things in his profession. And the reason being, last week. Um, we come online every week and we talk about estate planning, trusts, and then these videos will be uploaded to my YouTube channel, and I'm going to put that link on the video. So if you want to go to the YouTube channel and subscribe, check that out and see what other videos there are. We're always talking about things that can help you in your life to make sure that it is, you dream big, you work hard towards your dreams, and we want to make sure that they're protected, and that's our job. And so we're doing these videos to help you out, give you a little insight and some road planning, game planning. And uh, this came up for me personally because in the beginning of the month in January, I was rear-ended in a auto accident and didn't think much of it because there was no damage to the vehicle. But come to find out, all the force of that accident like went right to my head, and I had a concussion for a week, and I couldn't work, and lost a lot of money from just that week and a half of no work or being out of work. And so I turned to my friend Lyle here, who is in that arena with Shield Insurance. And so we're talking about long-term disability care, and some other really important issues that you need to be aware of in that field. So Lyle, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Michael. It's good to see
And
you.
it's good to see you always. It's a pleasure. And let's just talk about a little bit about what you do. Introduce yourself and your business, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Hey, everybody. So, Michael's correct. My name is Lyle Affleck, and Shield Insurance Services has been around for quite a while. I started in the insurance industry myself in 2005 and have a lot of experience, especially when it comes to disability, life insurance, and things like that. But disability has been a really important topic on a lot of people's minds, especially lately. And so I appreciate the opportunity to come on and answer some questions, maybe give you a little bit of wisdom and see if there is anything I can help you with.
So obviously, when I was hit with car and I was out for a week and a half, it was too late. But what kind of plan could I have had in place? What kind of protection could I have had in place had I done a little a forethought?
Well, forethought is a huge thing. A lot of people don't realize that it's almost impossible to get disability after the disability actually happens. And I get a lot of phone calls from people saying, I've been hurt. What can you do for me now? There's just not a whole lot we can do. So most disability companies have about a 30-day window after you purchase the plan in order to be able to actually use the plan. And even that in and of itself doesn't always work because a lot of disability policies have a waiting period. A lot of people have paid time off or vacation days that they would need to use up before their disability kicks in. Sometimes up to 2 weeks is pretty standard when it comes, if it's an illness. In your case, with an accident, it would have kicked in starting day one to be able to help cover somebody's wages. Now, disability does not mean that they're going to pay 100% of your wages. It's designed to help you get back to work, essentially. So they'll typically pay between 60 to 72%, almost really what you make minus taxes, in order to help sustain things. And depending on the avenue that you get your disability through, be it work or get it personally, there may be tax implications upon the money you receive as well. So there's a wide range of things that you need to think about there. Again, going back to your car accident example, Michael, a long-term disability plan it would not necessarily kick in there. Long-term disability usually kicks in no sooner than 90 days. a lot of short-term disability policies can be less expensive and go anywhere for a 3-month benefit up to a 2-year benefit. A combination between the two is really the best plan that anybody can put together. So how does one go about doing a disability claim? It has to be sanctioned by a doctor. You can't just say, well, I feel like being disabled today, and have someone pay you. It has to be sanctioned by a doctor who really has to give the period of time that he thinks or she thinks that you're going to be out.
You mean I can't feel like I'm just going to be disabled on a Friday and make that claim?
Absolutely not. It's got to be a bona fide, hey, something really happened, and a doctor signs off on.
So what would you say percentage-wise? How many of us are covered at all? How many of us are undercovered? You know, what's the landscape look like?
Well, there is, I would say that there's probably a good 30% of the people that actually have disability. 9 times out of 10, depending on the kind of plan they get, it's probably not enough. They'll get a disability plan and then not update it. When they get a raise, they can increase the benefit, and it's not expensive to do so. But I would say at least 30% of the people maybe have a disability plan, even though it may not be enough. Maybe 50% of those actually have enough disability. And then 65% of most people don't get it and then say, oh gosh, it's too late. If something happens, it's just too late for them to be able to get it. And I've had to turn a lot of business away from it. So yes, it is an extra expense, but if you are wanting to protect your paycheck, if you're wanting to protect your family, if you want to take care of those that you care about, this is really a first line of defense if you are unable to work due to illness or injury.
And how many of us, once we're in that realm, you mentioned it could go for 6 months, it could go for 2 years. What about the longer disability, or when we're later in life and we need some real care?
Sure. Okay. So there is long-term disability. There are plans that can last 2 years. There are plans that can last 5 years. There are plans that can go all the way to the age of retirement. Now, you have to be careful in those realms because the definition of disability changes at month 25. So you can be, say, on a regular disability plan because you've been unable to work or whatever for 2 years, but then the definition changes at the age when that disability reaches 25 months, because the government has said you should be able to at least do something else at that point. So if you were truly disabled and a doctor says, no, this person cannot bathe themselves, feed themselves, transport themselves, there's a certain criteria that you have to meet in order to continue into a long-term disability plan. And as you go through that, again, they'll reevaluate as often as they need to in order to be able to make sure that you're still disabled. Now, let's say the disability is permanent. You get all the way to the age of retirement, 65, 67, 70, depending on who you are, what you do, and where you're going with life. You get to that point, you may want to transition from a long-term disability plan to a long-term care plan, especially if you're going to need that in-home care that your family can't provide, or if you end up checking into a care facility. That's a completely different ballgame. But once you leave the workforce, disability really is no longer applicable.
When does that transfer take place? Are we still kind of projecting into the future and saying, I'm getting near the age of retirement, we should switch that, or is that just a matter of staying in good relationship with their insurance provider? When we start thinking about that transfer or something? I'm 40. When am I? 41, and should I be putting that long-term care on my portfolio now, or do I wait closer until the retirement age?
Honestly, long-term care policy is going to be the least expensive and the easiest to get when you are at our age. We're both 41. And so, yes, 40s, 50s, even into the 60s, it's going to be relatively inexpensive to be able to get a long term plan. There's different types of long term care plans. There's medically written. So you go through underwriting and you have to have a paramedical exam done and all of these different things for a long term care plan. Um, or there's asset based. And there's a lot of people that I'm working with now that would not qualify for a long term care plan, be it done medically. So they have to rely on their assets that they do have in order to be able to pay for a long term care plan. Now, a long term care plan, again, can help pay for in home care. Um, it's not really needed for hospice, but if you need to go into a care facility, or if you've got an aging parent that needs to go into uh, a sunset or sunrise facility, or an assisted living place, that's where these long-term care plans really kick in. They give a monthly benefit that money can be directly applied the um, to the facility in which they're being taken care of, and take care of absolutely all of their expenses when it comes to medical care and coverage.
So if a
So,
person that's younger gets into it now, because the assets aren't there, the asset column hasn't been built up necessarily, um, and as we go through life, we start building wealth. We can gauge that. We can turn down the insurance part as the asset part grows. We want to have that work together systematically. Is that correct?
correct. Absolutely. You want to be able to replace insurance need with asset. To be honest, it's a lot less expensive to be able to do things that way. And with a long-term care plan, it's almost like buying, say, a whole life insurance policy, where it's building up cash value. And in a lot of cases, you have this insurance policy, and if you don't end up using all of the benefit, the money can be passed on to your family on a tax-free basis, because it was quote unquote uh, part of a life insurance plan that just helped pay out for long-term care. There's a lot of policies that will be able to do this. So long-term care should be a part of a sound financial plan. Uh, Not to mention psychological benefits that it has for the family. There's a lot of families that where mom and dad are having to move in with the kids because they don't have the financial ability to put them into a care facility, and they have to take care of them. They have to give them their meds, help them bathe, feed them, do all of this stuff for their parents. How much more would their well-being be, um, if they were able to just live with mom and dad and help take, you know, enjoy experiences with mom and dad, instead of having to take care of them medically, and just bring someone in to help get that taken care of. It makes a huge difference in family dynamics, to be able to know that mom and dad are being taken care of, but not having to be the family in that situation.
Giving care rather than being the caregiver.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Big difference in freedom and time, right?
absolutely.
And just for clarification, these policies that we're talking about, they are separate and distinct from an auto policy or a health policy.
That's correct. With auto insurance, you have what's called personal injury protection that can help take care of some medical stuff. And actually, when it comes to an auto policy, um, getting increasing your personal injury protection can be a really great way um, to kind of pad your health insurance when it comes to that. It's not tied to health insurance. It's disability. Like I said, disability insurance is different when it's short-term disability and long-term disability. And then long-term care is different than long-term disability. Um, Long-term care can also involve, things like social security payments, and putting some of that stuff together, where disability does not necessarily help cover some of those things as well. And if someone becomes personally or permanently disabled, unless they have a long-term disability plan in place, it can take 2 to 3 years sometimes to push through a permanent disability claim with Social Security and with the US government. So you've got to be able to plan if you want to protect your paycheck.
That's great. So one of the reasons I wanted to cover this today, besides one of our viewers last week asking specifically about this topic, was in both of our professions, a lot of people wait too long. You know, a lot of people wait too long to do their estate planning. Too late to put a trust in place because there's a 5-year look back. And when we're out there and sharing the message, sometimes it's a little bit of gloom and doom, and we find that folks that have had this experience with family, had this experience, they've gone through probate or they've gone through a loved one having care, are more open to the idea and ready to do the kind of planning. But what's the secret sauce for folks that have never given it any thought, or our two topics just really depress them? How do we help them get into this?
It's a difficult conversation to have. It really is, but it's one that is necessary. It takes planning to be able to, and you do this for people all the time, Michael. You help people plan to protect their assets. You help them plan for the future when they're no longer here. And this disability and long-term care, those things are essential to a sound plan. So having that conversation with family, yes, it can be difficult, but it is absolutely necessary. And if you have questions, if you need pointers, or if you would like someone there to help facilitate the discussion, that's part of what I do. I've helped families really sit down and, it's a reality. People will become disabled. People will need long-term care, and eventually people are going to pass away. It's a reality of life. So we need to face those realities and really just take the bull by the horns and make sure that we've got all of our bases covered. So if your parents are aging and you want to have that conversation, let me help you have the conversation. If you're worried about your growing and burgeoning family and you want to make sure that they're taken care of if something happens to you, let's have that conversation, but don't put it off. It's so important to be able to just have the plan in place. So yeah, I am available to answer questions and to take care of people, but really just don't put it off. It makes a huge difference in your family's ability to live when they don't have to worry.
Absolutely. And we'll put your contact information in the below the video so people can check out your website, check out your whatever you want to give us, whether that's an email or a phone number. They can reach out to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you guys like these conversations, you can jump in on the comments and tell us your questions. What's going through your mind? Is there a topic that you want us to cover in future legal lives? Or you can just jump on the YouTube, subscribe, and watch these as they come out once a week. And so again, thank you, Lyle Affleck with Shield Insurance, and we'll see you all next week.